Have you ever noticed that when you see something on TV, either in a movie or in a commercial, the imaging just looks really good? And if you try to do the same thing with a camera at home or on your phone, it doesn't quite look the same. Well, the person behind creating those really stunning visuals on screen is the cinematographer. They're also called a director of photography or a DP. And my guest today is Austin Rappold, who's worked as a cinematographer in the film industry for quite some time. He's also had some other jobs in the film industry. We talk about that a little bit today. And we don't get too much into the technical sides of creating a good picture, creating a great film, but really kind of more the human elements of it and also what that's done for him personally. I really hope you guys enjoy the conversation. I had a blast talking with Austin. We've spoke before, you know, and it was really, and he said some really insightful things to me that I hadn't ever thought of before, even though I personally work in video production. And so I hope you guys enjoy that. Be sure to check out his work at Austin_Rappold on Instagram. Also, his video production company is RappoldEntertainment.com. You can check out his stuff there. And he's got a lot of good, even short films on Vimeo. Lots of interesting work. And the conversation today really kind of opened up a lot of thoughts, ideas that I'm still processing, to be honest. So I hope you guys get into it, grab a coffee, and enjoy. Austin, thanks so much for joining today, for hopping on. It's good to see you again. By the way, I know it's been a little while since we've talked.
Yeah, we've never actually met in person, you and I.
I know that's
We met
true.
we met through that video group.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and for people listening, my very first episode was with Mike, and Austin and I know each other through the same group that Mike and I had met each other. And I think I wasn't even actually in that group at the same time that you were there. I think I came a little afterwards, but I was invited to the networking group that you were in through like WhatsApp and stuff like that and Zoom.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have been watching more of your stuff, especially since you were generous enough to come on. I wanted to have a little bit more kind of context of, the work that you had done, even though I had seen some of it from the group, like the stuff that you would send in and stuff like that. I was always pretty into it, but man, I didn't know that you had been doing this already for a while, like a few years. Started off in acting and stuff. I don't know if you're up for sharing any of that, but
Yeah.
right now, would you call yourself first and foremost a cinematographer?
Yeah, that's definitely like the number one thing on my list of like what I do for work and where I want my career to go is in that realm. Um, I actually wasn't Mike and them that were in the group that you're referring to that we were talking to on WhatsApp. They were all in another group prior to that I was not in, and Mike ended up hiring me as an editor for one of his a video for his company, and that we met through that. And then when we met on Zoom, we ended up talking about. He asked what I did, and I told him I had my own video production company, and I was editing, and I shot some things, and then he was like, "Oh, I have this great group that you should join. I'll ask them if I can add you onto it." And then that was he brought me into that group, and then that's how you and I met, and that blossomed. But I before that I really was kind of skating through getting like a job here and there every month, and then making some of my own projects, my own narrative films.
Mm-hmm.
And then through that group, they really pushed me to like go complete full time with my video business. Not really the narrative stuff because that wasn't really their realm of expertise. They were all like business oriented, which I never was.
The
Um,
corporate type
so
of
they
videos.
Yeah, and they taught. I freelanced for a few other companies that did that, but I never like took it upon my own company to really push to do that. And then I quit both of the jobs I had at the time. I worked at a golf course and I was a personal trainer, and then I quit those and then kind of spearheaded full time into video. Um, and then yeah, I just linked up with a few other production companies, and then that just snowballed into now. Um, yeah.
I remember you've said before that you were bartending too at the same time as personal training. Was that at the golf course?
Yeah, so the Crystal Springs they have two hotels,
Oh, okay.
and I I live behind one of them, which was Minerals Hotel, and I bartended and personal trained there. And then at the other hotel, that's where like their bigger golf courses were, and then I worked there in the cart yard. So I kind
Nice.
of stayed. I've been with that company for, like a decade.
That's cool. I mean, shows you made at least made a good impression early on, you know.
Right. Yeah, I hope so.
So for people listening though, could you maybe kind of give us a little bit of a breakdown of what a cinematographer is? Just because I feel like a lot of people who I feel like most people like movies. They at least have some movies that they like. And when they hear cinematography, they know that that has to do with cinema, obviously movies. But in the filmmaking industry or even video production industry, what is a cinematographer specifically?
So the cinematographer basically is working with the director to decide what the final image is going to look like. And not even in the sense of like you can be a cinematographer on set and not even touch the camera. Um, but you're kind of leading the camera and lighting and grip department to decide what like I said, the final image is going to look like with the director. Um, so it's like much more. Your knowledge really needs to be more in lighting than it does in camera. I found, and that's like where when my skills kind of changed and focused more on the lighting and shied away from the camera stuff, my work got better and I started getting more work because just the images ended up looking better. But that was just from really learning lighting. Like you'll see, like a lot of cinematographers will come from lighting departments and not the camera departments
Yeah.
most of the time, just because it really is lighting. I think is the most important part of it. But yeah, they're just the cinematographer decides with the director what the final image is going to look like, and with the smaller indie projects that I work on, I find that I'm almost like co-directing too in a way, and we're kind of on smaller films. It's such a collaborative process where on bigger films you know, you could be in the camera department and never even talk to the cinematographer.
Oh,
That's how
okay.
like far apart it can be on some sets. Where these smaller projects, we all are working together, and then the director is bouncing ideas off of me. I'm bouncing ideas off of him. I'm talking to my gaffer about what he thinks, and we're all working together to get to that final image that we're all thinking about, or what the director wants. At least is what I work for and strive for, is to make sure they're happy with the final image. Um, I sometimes post on like a cinematography Reddit page, and which is a total mistake. Don't do that. Um, but there's a lot of people who don't. Anyone can obviously join a Reddit page, so there's a lot of opinions around there, and it's impossible to cipher who to listen to, who's right, who's wrong, and it's all art anyway, so all opinions are kind of irrelevant. Um, but I always made sure that whatever project I'm working on is that the director is happy who's hiring me. Not even I'm going to put my own ideas out there,
Hmm.
but I will push those ideas aside completely for the director. I want them to be happy. I want to make sure that their movie, that's my job, is to make sure what is in their head is coming out onto the screen, essentially.
And
Um,
do you find that they're communicating that with you kind of along the way, pretty that they have to articulate that, or is what's kind of like? Do you have any kind of stories or any kind of like maybe just so we can see it from your point of view? What, because even me personally, I haven't worked with a big crew yet or anything like that. A lot of times it's just been smaller teams, even myself trying to do everything. What is that?
yeah.
What is that like? Work communicating with the director on set.
So a lot of the directors that I've worked with are different. There's some that are they really don't care what it looks like. They're kind of some will completely leave that to me,
Hmm.
and they'll kind of just go with whatever. They'll say, you know best, you do what you want to do, um, which is fine. I enjoy that, of course, and I'm always trying to find projects that are gonna like add more to my skill set. Where if there's something that's in their script that I've never shot before, or if it's like a horror film and then like a rom com, whatever it is, that will guide the type of projects that I take on and work on. But yeah, a lot of the directors I have found are very different. Some will do like this film that we're finishing up. We have one more shoot day. We did another one last night. Me and him kind of went over we made a whole shot list together. We went on to Shot Deck, which is a website that has stills from films, and we made like a whole lookbook for what we wanted the short film to look like. And that's also like another guiding light that helps to make a much more cohesive film altogether, where we're on the same understanding of what we can accomplish and what we can do with the budget and where the location needs to be, what time of day we need to shoot. Where some directors, they just book me for, they'll say, hey, in June we're going to do the first to the third, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're going to do this short film. Here's the script, let's just go do this. And then like I could get to set and the room is way smaller than I anticipated it, or the photos they sent me weren't completely accurate. It's raining out, and then we have to on the fly figure out what we're going to do and be, that's when like the most creative things happen, when we are thinking on the fly of how we're going to solve that problem, whatever it is.
Hmm.
And yeah, just kind of working that out. I used to get like really nervous before shoots because I was always worried about what's going to happen, or my camera breaks down, or what if this shot doesn't work like that. And from doing, I've shot almost like 30 short films now and starting a third feature. And it's so like, I don't think about it. Like, there's no nerves of like what's going to happen because I know we're just going to figure it out.
Okay.
And we're not going to take if a shot is bad, we're just going to say, okay, this isn't working. Let's try to figure something else out. Like we just did that last night. It was a shot of this kid waking up in the bedroom, and the bedroom was really bland. We didn't have art department on the shoot or anything, and I was looking at it and we ran through it and I was like, this shot's not working. Like I hate the shot. I hate the look of this. The director agreed, and I was like, all right, let's kind of reset. Let's pull the camera out of the room. And then we shot from in the hallway into the bedroom, and it like framed with the doorway, and it kind of all, me and him both looked at the monitor and we were like, yeah, this is the shot. That's it. Like and that moment is like what I live for. That's like the eureka moment of like, this is a success. This is great.
When it just kind of
So,
clicks,
but
and
yeah,
then you look at the director, and then he probably, you guys look at each other and just
we
realize
just
like,
know. Yeah, we just nod. Yeah. And especially after if the actor does a good take too, and we're just like we just look at each other. We're like, yeah, we got it. We can move now.
nice.
Because I've worked with directors that are very quick,
Hmm.
because they don't have a big budget, so they try to cram like 10 pages into a single day, and it's taught me to be very quick and to be very. Um, I'm constantly thinking about what the next shot is going to be and thinking about the time restraints that we have during that day to just make my job is to just have us finish the day so we don't go into another shoot day.
Yeah.
So it's taught me to light very quickly, make quick decisions, which has helped me with bigger projects where I'm not sitting there. That's like the biggest thing is like wasting time trying to figure things out. And I've found that even on bigger budgets, you still have no time.
D-
Like there's I think a lot of people think the bigger the project is and the more budget is, the more time you're going to have.
Uh-huh.
But they actually just put, I think the time frame is still the same, but the money is going into other parts like paying for set design, and it's not going into so I can have 2 days filming this bedroom scene. I'm still only going to have a day to film that.
Yeah.
So it's good to, that was like a big change to adjust to because I was always like hoping, oh, I'm going to get to this point where I'm going to have a whole, I'm going to have 2 days to film this whole thing. And I'm not at like a multi-million-dollar film shoot yet. I'm not talking about that. That's like a whole different thing. But it's definitely, even with increasing budgets under 100K, it's still, we have no time to
Yeah.
really lollygag about what we're going to do here. So everybody really needs to be like on top of their game. Um, and there's a lot of the newer directors I work with. That's like sometimes I've had to take them to a side and be like, hey, we got to move here. We got to keep going. We don't really have time to. And I'm trying to keep their budget in mind because they're usually the director or the producers, the ones that are hiring me. And I usually have had more experience than they have on set. I've just worked on more projects.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'll immediately, if they have some grandiose thought of a shot, I'm like, we're not going to have time to do that. We have to think of another way to do this. What about, if we put the camera down here, whatever it is. And they've every time, we've come to a conclusion that we're both happy with, and that helps the story and everything. But I'm going on a tangent.
No, it's fascinating, man. That was one of the biggest kind of shocks for me, or not a shock, but I guess just kind of an eye-opening moment is with these famous directors or cinematographers. You kind of assume that it's a whole different world, and it is obviously like they have the resources and everything, but I think a lot of people think it's easy and that they have all the time in the world, with a film that's 200 has a $200 million budget. But a lot of times it's like, no, people get used to working at that pace or pushing others to work at that pace under those constraints, and so it's just like there's never enough time or enough money, and so there's always that push. And it's funny you brought up the site Shot Deck, because I think that was the I'm embarrassed I'm blanking on his name, but the cinematographer for the Joker and a bunch of other well-known movies.
Yeah, that's his. Yeah, that's his website.
His
It's
thing.
what is his name? I know his name. I'm blanking on it too. But
Yeah,
yes,
I know. I know
that
his
is his
face
website.
and his voice and his films, obviously, but he's even talked about that too. That there's never enough money, uh, and so when I say that, like, I haven't worked on a film that is $200 million yet, but just hearing other people that have said that, is pretty eye opening to me. And he even brought up the Joker specifically. Was that scene where he's running to get his sign back out in the
Hmm.
streets, and those guys like took it from him. I guess that was supposed to be shot on a sunny day, and he was like, it was super
Right.
overcast. I was just like, man, first of all, I would have expected that to be intentional. I think it looks better
Right.
personally, but it's so
Yeah.
crazy to me how they have to think on the fly like that, because it's like you said, it's the budget. They don't have the means to just say, okay, we'll wait till next week when it's going to be sunny. They got to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that 200 million isn't going into the cinematographer to have more days on set. It's going into all the actors, the sets, the locations. That's the equipment and everything. Obviously, um, where I think younger cinematographers think that that's going to mean that they have all the time in the world when they get onto those bigger projects. You're going to have more time, don't get me wrong, like a
Mm-hmm.
bedroom scene, you will have 2 days to shoot that, but it's still like, it's not this thing where everything is going to be easier because there's more money, you know.
Right.
I've worked on projects that had more money and it was way harder, It's just like every project is going to be different. Every project's going to have its own problems, I think, and you know, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Any project in particular that stands out as being particularly problematic or kind of tiresome?
This one director I work with frequently, he likes to, he really only gives his actors like one take because he tries
Oh
to
man.
get so many shots in a single day. And sometimes he actually, when we're on set, he has a lot of grandiose ideas for some shots and what he wants to do. Um, and I would always say on set, we're never going to get this shot. And he
You say
actually
that? You say
print.
that to him?
Yeah, I say that to him, and me and him are very close, and we've worked together on a lot of projects, and I'm always just like, we're never gonna get this shot. And then he got me a shirt made, and it says, "We're never gonna get this shot, Austin Rappold." Uh, but him in particular, and he's the one that actually kind of taught me to go fast because he tries to put so many um, shots and so many scenes into a single day. Um, but I mean, there's never been anything no catastrophe has ever happened yet. Um, but I was going to segue this into, oh yeah, so this director in particular, he he gave me like my first opportunity at a short film that was working with somebody else that wasn't my own film, and he got me into acting years ago. And then I found out that he was directing film, so I was like, hey, do you mind if I'm trying to get into this side of things now. I'm kind of done with acting. And he said, sure. And I came onto that project, and he was working with me and another cinematographer, and then I ended up being the main cinematographer that he kept hiring. And he, there was a point for a while where his films, his budget was so low that I wasn't taking the job serious. And I had to take a step back, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, why am I wasting this opportunity? I kept like thinking that everything was going to be better when I got onto these bigger sets.
Hmm.
And I was going to be happy when I was in that spot. And I was happy making these smaller films, but I kind of wasn't. I was like, oh, the pay isn't great. I'm not gonna like, break my back over this. And it was totally like an ego trip that I was having.
Okay.
And I was like, why am this is just a waste of time doing this
Like if you're not gonna
if
put
I'm not gonna
100%.
my
Yeah.
full effort into it. Yeah. And I was like, I need to use these opportunities in these smaller films to learn I didn't go to film school or anything. Um, I only learned from working on other sets and commercials in like camera utility department,
Hmm.
and and even those commercials are still like way different from narrative projects. But I used his first films and kind of cut my teeth on all of those once I made that change of I am gonna go above and beyond here. I'm going to look over his script. I'm going to get a shot list together. I'm going to make a mood board for what I want it to look like. I'm gonna really hustle to get my lights in certain spots because that was the thing too, is because we were trying to put so many shots into one day, and he wasn't really. He just wanted to get the shots done.
Hmm.
He didn't really. It didn't matter if I shot it on my iPhone. So I had to kind of be confident in my decisions on the day and be able to tell him, hey, give me 5 minutes, let me set this light up. Even though like the days were long and exhausting, and in the beginning I definitely was like, yeah, I don't want to put that light up, I'm not gonna do that. Um, and change to like, no, this is it. I can rest when I get home. What is the shot here? Where do I think the light needs to be? And just quickly make those decisions and move those things. Because I was working alone. That was all like one man band stuff. And that was another reason why it was harder to really move around it because it took time to
Hmm.
do that. But now when we're on set and I have like a gaffer or an assistant, it's really like, it's like, let's put the key light there, let's put that over there, let's put a neg flag here. And it's having that help is just such a difference. And I think that that's important too, that a lot of beginner filmmakers or cinematographers, when they don't have that help, that is one of the reasons why your image isn't looking the way that it does. Because when you have a good team with you, if my gaffer is good, my grip is good, and we're all working together and we're taking my knowledge, my gaffer's knowledge, my grip's knowledge, and we're all working together to say, hey, what is the best way to shoot this? How should we light this? And then the gaffer is like, oh, let's try the light here under this flag because I did this on a film and that's kind of in the same realm of what we're trying to do here. Um, and yeah, that's the biggest thing with having crew members that are knowledgeable and everyone working together. Where like I can't go and film the Batman alone. It's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
You need that crew, you need that team there, and that's the difference. It's not even the money, it's the crew and everyone's knowledge coming together and working together to make that final product. And I think that's where a lot of younger filmmakers or cinematographers trying to get into it struggle, is because they do everything by themselves because they have to. But I think it's to know that it's okay that your stuff doesn't look like that stuff over there because you don't have the means for it. You don't have the crew to do that. And that's okay. You're going to get to that spot.
Right.
But right
Right.
now it's okay because I used to be hard on myself about that. So, and I know other people are too.
About how your stuff looked in the past.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I watched one of your earlier ones that actually won a bunch of awards, though. The girl. I
Oh
liked.
yeah. The poster is right there for
Oh,
that.
sweet.
That's the
Perfect.
poster there.
Awesome, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that one looked terrible.
You think so? Because I thought you might say that just because it was a few years ago, and I'm sure you've grown a ton. I mean, I can see it even in your highlight reel. You guys listening, check out Austin's highlight reel. And I don't know if you'd call it a highlight reel. It's supposed to be like you just say the
Yeah, cinematography reel. Yeah, highlight reel. Yeah, it's all the same
cinematography
stuff.
reel. Yeah,
Demo reel.
and you know, so obviously there's growth there, but even in that video or that film, there's a lot of clips where it's like it feels like you're watching a movie, like the close up on the car at the end, stuff like that. Because I would see videos like even my own little things that I would make, and I would be like, why does it not seem like a movie? You can't quite pinpoint it. Sometimes it's the acting, sometimes it's you know okay, maybe it's just the setting. It rarely is though. Usually it's the skill level of the people making the stuff, right? But
Yeah.
yours, there were a lot of moments even in the like that older one, and then also in your newer stuff where it's like I feel like I'm watching a movie, and I think what a lot of people don't realize is that it's the skill, like what you were saying, is the lighting. Um, Even that newer movie, I think it was called The Creator, where everybody they were talking about like it was the I think we even talked about this in our group that
X3.
yeah, the Sony
Yeah.
FX3, and everybody was going nuts over that. And I think you brought up to us like saying that that was really overblown because if they would have had the budget, like they would have gone with a different setup. Um, so
Yeah, from what I've researched, the camera, they only use that because of the low light capabilities of it, and
uh,
because of they had such a lightweight crew because they were going to like 200 locations around the world where they were shooting, and they just couldn't, to have like an RELX on set requires a much bigger crew and bigger lights for that sensor, and that was like a big thing. That Oren Soffer, he's the co-cinematographer with it with Greg Fraser, what they talked about. But and again too, even on that, regardless of that, it was still like I think it was like 200 million or something.
yeah,
It was
it's
some, whatever the budget was.
right.
It was a massive, you know, that was where the locations were making the shots look beautiful, and it wasn't just, and they had anamorphic lenses on it. It wasn't just the FX3. I think he didn't even know the FX3 was even a camera. They were just looking at specs and they said, "Oh, I think this is probably going to be the best bet," and that was it. It was just the right tool for the job. Yeah.
Yeah. it's it's crazy that it still looks amazing though, and it ultimately all comes down to lighting. Like, would you say that
Yeah.
it's safe to assume that on a film like that they had good chemistry between the crew members?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I've watched a lot of BTS footage from that film and a lot of interviews with Oren because he was actually on set there. I think Greg Fraser was working on Dune 2, so he was kind of like he was off set
Mm-hmm.
and they were both like talking together. Um, but yeah, they had a very there was like 6 people on like the camera and lighting crew for some of the shots that I saw, and they were using all aperture lights, which are all prosumer lights, and it was just that's awesome to see, and it's very inspiring that you can make like a beautiful image like that, like even if you have like a black magic camera. Um, it's so, but the difference and what I see on a lot of like YouTube videos or like YouTube film school,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of like videographers that are cinematographers, and they talk about how to get that Netflix look or that A24 look. Um, and it's kind of, I think, chasing the wrong, like that's not the point of it. Like cinematography is storytelling. It's not even like, besides the image looking good, like you would still have to be able to, like Soderbergh, like he's done 2 films on iPhones.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just hand that iPhone to like somebody who's not a professional and seasoned cinematographer. They're not going to know how to shoot with that iPhone
Right.
because it's not about the iPhone. It's about the skill sets that you build over time working on projects. But yeah, it's another tangent.
No, no. I mean, yeah, storytelling is cool, and I've heard you say that before too. That it ultimately comes down to the story. Is that, would you say, the biggest piece of the video production in general or filmmaking that you're drawn to the most?
Yeah, I think that that's definitely the biggest to see if a film is going to be successful. It's the story. To me, is the only thing that matters in that sense. Like I said before, I take on projects that the stories are not great, but
Mm-hmm.
they're going to elevate my work in some way, or I'm going to be able to contribute something that I haven't done before, or if I have some other connection with the director, or if even if I think the project is just going to be a fun project and I like the crew and everyone that's working on it. But in the sense of success when it comes to a film, it's definitely going to be story first. Um, the girl, I actually didn't even shoot the girl. I starred in it and I directed it. A friend of mine shot it.
Mm-hmm.
But we used like a Nikon. I don't think we used like any lighting. It was all natural light and everything. And
Except for
it,
indoors, right? There were a couple. There were a couple indoor shots though.
yeah, I really think that we just used like the lighting in the house.
Oh
There
wow.
was no, yeah, there was no like we didn't have lights at the time because
Mm-hmm.
that was like 2019. So it was a few years after I graduated high school and I was still pursuing acting. And we didn't, it was like, hey, I have an idea, let's go shoot this thing. It was like super run and gun. My other friends were the actors. Like it was not, no part of it was like professional at all. And it was just like how growing up, me and my friends made a lot of short films and like skit films we put onto like YouTube or Facebook and sent to our friends. So this was kind of like another version of that. It was a little more serious, stepping more up to what we wanted to do.
The subject matter was
But it
serious.
definitely, right, yeah. Well, that was because everything was like, oh, something crazy has to happen. Somebody has to die, or there has to be a gun or something.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the thing too. Even with because I still direct, I try to direct at least one short film every year. It's now getting harder. I'm getting less and less time. But even last October, we did a film, Truth or Dare, and that was I co-directed it with a friend of mine because he was trying to get into directing, and I wrote the film, but I wanted to mainly focus on the cinematography of it. Um, But even that, it was like a group of friends. They go to like this frat party. Stuff gets weird, and the one kid ends up killing the other kid, and it's just like something exciting to happen. And I have to like constantly remind myself when I am thinking of like other films to make to not focus on that aspect of it and say like, okay, what is like the root of the story here? And even the truth or dare, even though that scene happened, like the root of it was, I don't know if you saw it or not, but I'm going to spoil it.
I saw the
The one
other. I
kid
saw the
is,
other one. Not this one, unfortunately. I saw the one last favor that
oh yes, yeah,
you did it with somebody else though
that
too.
I was cinematography on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And truth or dare, he ends up. You find out that this one character is cheating on this other character,
Okay.
and his whole thing is like a lie. So that is the core of it is that, but there is a scene where this violent thing happens, and that's like the climax of the movie, and that's like the big thing. But to get back to your original question, story is definitely like the number one. Like even if there's nothing that's like amazing is going to happen in the film, like no crazy like head chopped. I work a lot of in horror and like thriller. That's like mainly what the projects that come to me are. Um, but I'm definitely not drawn to that completely if the story is good. Like it could be a boring drama of a son and his father, and if the story is good, then I'm thrilled, to work on it. But yeah, story is definitely top.
That's cool. I've heard that with so many people, pretty much everybody that works in not just filmmaking but even video production. I've heard, you know, colorists say that. And for people listening, if you didn't know, there are people who color grade films and videos, and that's their only job is they, manipulate the colors. There's also color correction, but to give you an example, is like there's even color temperature, like a movie like Heat is more cold. There are a lot of blues in there. Something like I don't know, any example where like the Truman Show, for example, like there's more like yellow, kind of those bright colors to kind of match um, the fake world, that the artificial kind of happiness and stuff like that. Um, and but it can be used for storytelling though too, like in the Matrix. When they're in the Matrix, it's green, and then when they're out in the real world, it's more natural looking. So people, that's definitely a focus. But how would you say you get good at storytelling, aside from all the technical sides of cinematography or color grading, whatever your job is, the gaffer, stuff like that? How does somebody become a better storyteller, in your opinion?
So when I first started acting, and I would go to auditions, and I would get casted in these short films or get casted on these web series shows. Every time we had the first table read with all the actors, the directors and producers would always say, "Okay, let's go around the table. How did you get into acting? Why did you start acting?" And everyone always had like a very intimate reason why they were acting, and because they love the art of it and all this stuff. And my response always was, I love movies. And that was it. I was like, I love movies, and I want to make movies, and I want to be in movies. And I was working with a lot of directors as an actor, and I would bring movies up to them, and they've never seen them. Some, like prolific, like we'll just say The Godfather, and they'll be like, "Oh, I never even saw The Godfather." And my gut reaction was like, "You want to be a filmmaker and you've never seen The Godfather? Like, what are you
Shocking.
talking about?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yeah, I don't really watch a lot of movies," and that never made sense to me. And to this day, I'm like, my biggest thing is film. Like all I do is watch films, BTS of films, podcasts of directors, cinematographers, costume casting. I'm just like so obsessed with that. Um, and I think the best way to get better at story is to watch movies, watch documentaries, read screenplays. That's really the only way I think to, and obviously like live your life too, but there's a way to. I've read a lot of screenwriting books because I write my own projects that I'm filming,
Hmm.
and understanding those core concepts of like the hero's journey and all that. I'm not going to explain all that, but um, you kind of start seeing film. Like if you see like a director or a writer do like a speech at a college, it's like amazing because they know that they need to tell a story through this thing. They're not just rambling on and on and on. They have these clear marks they need to hit. The turning point. This is when I'm going to refer back to my childhood. This was my big moment. This was my downfall, and then my climb back up. So I think watching movies and like really watching them, not being on your phone while you're watching them, or even putting sometimes I'll even put the subtitles on and I'll turn the sound off and I'll just read the subtitles as I'm watching,
Interesting.
and I'll try to it really makes you focus on the dialogue and what the characters are talking about. And I'm really into foreign films like Japanese cinema, Korean cinema. um, those films are obviously all subtitled, so you really have to pay attention, and you really are, sucked into that world of the film. And yeah, I think that that's the best way, I think, and at least how I approach things, is how referring to other movies and just kind of, you kind of understand what needs to be there, what you can change, where you can add things into that story. And even for work, because I'm sure a lot of people that are listening to the podcast and the other world of this is in like videography. There's this one company that I freelance for often. Um, we do a lot of corporate work, and we do a lot of like documentary corporate work, and we also shoot events. And the biggest thing, we joke about it with the owner of the company, but his big thing is tell the story. You know, because it's easy to go to a wedding or going to an event and saying, okay, I'm going to get the shot of the bride here. They're going to throw the flowers. It's all the same repetitive things where, we will, a lot of the time we'll shoot like interviews that are leading up to like a big gala event.
Hmm.
So we, as the shooters who worked on the interview shoot, we will, when we get to the gala, because they'll play that interview shoot, that whole video will play at the gala.
Okay.
So we will be sure to find those interviewees when they're watching the video. We'll go and look for their expressions while they're watching it.
But it's
You
not
know what I
it's
mean?
not in the
Because
same
we're
day, right? It's not in the same day.
no,
Okay. Okay.
no. So it'll be, we'll just say a company has a fundraiser event. A month prior, we're going to shoot 5 interviews of people that are going to win the award and people talking about the person winning the award, right?
Hmm.
And at the gala, they'll play the video and they'll say, okay, the next award is gonna go to so and so, and
Yeah.
then it'll be people talking about so and so, and while they're talking about that person, we will find so and so in the audience, and we'll make sure to get shots of them reacting to that, going up to the stand and all that, and we're looking for those moments because we're going to create another video of the gala.
Hmm.
And but we're always thinking about how is this going to line up in the video as a story, and we're not just shooting to shoot coverage.
Yeah.
um you know like a lot of, I've transitioned away from weddings and shooting weddings, and a big thing that a lot of companies I've worked with, they're just like, yeah, just get as much coverage as possible, just shoot as much as possible, and then they're going to decide everything in the edit room, and then it's kind of just all over the place because there's no, you get this great shot of Gary, and then Gary's never shown again. There's no story there. Where at this company that I work with, and one of the reasons why I think they're as successful as they are is because every video that we make for our clients are, we're telling that story, and we're trying to grab, because there's so many videos now on the internet. Everyone is shooting video. Every company has video. And the only way to stand out is to make something that's really going to grab somebody and bring them in. And that's the story, to make something relatable to somebody else.
100%. Yeah, that I don't know if you're comfortable sharing this part, but people, recognizable people, I know just from our conversations and stuff that you've shared, and then also but following you on Instagram, you've shot for some pretty notable, recognizable people. Do you have any stories or any kind of examples that you'd want to share? When you're, since you mentioned interviews
Yeah.
leading up to the gala and stuff like that.
Yeah, we did a shoot with Billy Joel for the Grammys in January,
Uh huh.
and it was very cool. Meeting him was very surreal and awesome, and I love his music and everything. But what's funny though that I tell a lot of people is it was kind of like a lot of the other crew members I've worked with that have met famous people,
Uh huh.
they weren't all really too excited about it. It was kind of like I was like, it's Billy Joel. What do you mean? This is like crazy. And and I understand now because it kind of isn't. You know, it's not. I don't want to compare it to when people say don't ever meet your heroes because Billy Joel is not one of my heroes. Um, if I met like Steven Spielberg, I think that to me would be like a surreal moment.
Okay.
But even meeting Billy Joel, I think it's like a lot. I think it's a cooler story for people, but it really was like it was such a small shoot. It was like, we set up for an hour, he came in for 5 minutes, we did the interview, and he left. He pieced out. Um, so, I mean, it was, like I said, it was a cool experience, but it was really you know, it's not going to go down as like, oh my, this was such an insane moment for me to do this thing. Like the short film we shot last night, we got this shot that really blew my mind, and that was like that moment was cool to me,
Oh, okay.
Um, or like we did a shoot with Ice-T a week ago
Yeah.
for Raising Cane's, and again that was like it was cool. He was there, and there was like a lot of influencers were there that were in the commercial too,
Mm-hmm.
and they were super ecstatic about it. But again, I think they were hyped because they're sharing that they met Ice-T
Mm-hmm.
on their Instagram and their social platforms. It really wasn't about them meeting Ice-T. They didn't really care about that, I don't think.
Oh, it was about them
I
being
think
able
it
to
was
say
more
that they met. I see.
the story that they know Ice-T and they met him, or even like Billy Joel. It's really cool to say that. But when I think back to it, it was like, yeah, it was, we shot it on New Year's Eve. I got stuck in traffic on the way back. That was like kind of my thought about it.
Did you?
But
Did
again,
you?
and I don't want to sound pompous at all, or like I'm super grateful that I did that shoot. I'm just
Mhm.
saying in retrospective you know, but what were you going to say?
No, so it sounds like you didn't do anything differently compared to the other, as far as like you didn't treat the job differently, because you mentioned before how the smaller budget, um, productions, you
Right.
you kind of had to tell yourself, hey, I need to show more attention to this, get more out of this, at the very least for yourself, too. Were there any moments like that with Ice T or Billy Joel where you were like, hey, this is with this person, so I should go the extra mile
Right.
to get the shot? Did you do anything extra with the lighting or anything, or like talking to them or anything like that?
So for those two shoots, I worked as camera utility.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can say is that the shoots like that it's really a producer's game. Um, and which is why I don't really strive to get into that world.
Okay.
Um, there's not the camera operators there don't really have a lot of they're kind of just like techs really, where it's not up to them what this image is going to look like really.
Okay.
The producer is going to have their idea. Billy Joel's stylist is going to have their idea. His manager is going to have their idea.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big joke we were talking about, as if he was going to wear a hat or not. And we were like, yeah, I mean, he's going to do whatever he wants to do.
I see.
Where you don't really have too much choice in that sense in the camera department.
I see.
You're kind of just you're going and you're doing the job and you're going home. It's not going to go on your reel or anything,
Okay.
where you're not making these creative choices of where the light is going to be or how it's going to hit onto him. At least for these these smaller shoot, I still consider those like smaller shoots. If you did like a huge, like the even the job for Ice T, and we did another job with the Heisman Trophy nominees, the three of them.
Hmm.
We did another little thing for them. Those were both like social media videos.
Okay.
So they're much smaller. They're big productions, but they're not like full blown commercials with Ice-T that are going to be, all over TV or anything like that. So those definitely have more control. But things like this, they're much more like, you know, you're hired there to get the shot that the producer tells you where to put the camera, and then that's pretty much it.
Okay. What would happen if you went up to Ice T on set or like around in between takes or something like that, and you're like, "Hey, I love you in Law and Order, man. Like that's the best." Like, would you just get thrown thrown off the project right there?
So it's funny you say that because my family and friends always say, "Oh, you didn't get a picture with Billy Joel, you didn't get a picture with Ice-T,"
Yeah.
and it's so unprofessional to do that.
Uh huh.
And you would never want to be that guy that's like, if everyone gets in line to take pictures with Billy Joel and the camera guy's getting a picture, yeah, I'll hop online and I'll get a picture. But I mean, I would never stop or bring something for them to sign or something. That to me is so. That's like your fastest way to probably not get called back. You just want to be professional. It's cool. I don't want them to feel weird. I don't want to feel like I'm annoying. And I feel that, like, I met Jack Black one time at a theater, and even that, and I was just as like a civilian, I wasn't working with him or anything. And even that, I was like, "Do you want to take a picture with me? Would that be cool?" And even
Hmm.
that was kind of like weird. I don't want to be that guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we did a shoot with that had a few of the New York Giants came for. It was like a toy drive, and one of the employees of the building we were at he kept coming back and back with like footballs for them to sign, like bags of
Uh.
footballs, and I was like, "This is crazy." I
Oh
was like, if
man.
anyone sees this guy, he's not going to come back to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
But
That's
some,
quite the.
some people don't care.
They just want to get
Yeah,
what
to me,
they. Yeah.
yeah. Like if I fanboyed out at Billy Joel, I probably wouldn't have gotten that next job where I met Ice-T. You know what I mean?
Oh, I see.
Because
Yeah.
they're not going to they don't want to bring that guy on. It's almost like a liability if they're going to freak out and cause something, because
Of
they don't want
course.
to. These guys don't want to deal with that.
Of course. Yeah, that's even I mean, it's kind of the same thing even in like the restaurant industry, any part of the hospitality industry. It's like if you act they're like you can't act starstruck, you know. I saw
Yeah.
I saw Toby the from The Office at a restaurant one time in LA. And I gotta admit, it kind of paused. Like I paused for a sec. It caught my attention. Like damn, this is crazy. We need to
Yeah.
say hi to him. And my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, she was like, "Don't even think about it." You know, and but and nobody else was starstruck at all. Like you could tell it was just a normal occurrence at this place. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, so that yeah, that's definitely a red flag that you want to avoid for sure. And
Yeah.
but I would say I did have some other questions though too, real quick. I don't know how much time you got to have or that you
It
have,
sounds
but
like.
we'll be wrapping up in just a minute. Real quick, some
Yeah.
questions. What do you think about AI in filmmaking? Are you or any thoughts on AI?
Um, so I was a big when ChatGPT first came out, and I got ChatGPT 4, and I was super like enthralled in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of became, I was punching in like screenplay ideas, I was like constantly on ChatGPT. And I was using it to almost as like a learning tool.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of caught some things it was saying, and I was like, I know that's not right, and that's wrong. That you wouldn't say it that way, whatever it was. And then and then everything was happening with the strikes, and I got kind of turned off from it because at first I was looking at it as like, oh, this is like a great tool. And
Hmm.
I do still think in some circumstances it definitely can be. If you're sending like cold emails out and stuff like that, like, ChatGPT will type that up in 2 seconds. It's almost like another assistant that does some of this work that you may not want to do. Like I've even put full scripts into ChatGPT and had it write up a shot list to see, and it does it. It writes everything up. Obviously I'm not making any creative decision, and I'm not really thinking about it, and
Hmm.
that was the problem that I came into, where
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is like, what is the point of this then? Why would I want to do this if I'm just going to have this other thing do this job?
Yeah.
And I'm not really making my decisions for it.
But that's kind of like
But
pre-production
yes,
still. What would you say about something that's more along the lines of like I think Sorry is the name, right? That creates the images or any kind of backgrounds. Have you heard other people that you've worked with or talk about like, hey, this is going to replace the way maybe we can achieve this other scene that otherwise we wouldn't be able to. We don't need $10 million for this. We can use AI to our advantage.
so I've heard a lot of older crew members talk and worry about AI and the Sora video creation, but I personally don't think that it's going to replace anything. I think maybe stock footage sites will probably get replaced, um, but I don't think it'll come to a point, at least not soon. I mean, I also have who knows, but I wouldn't want to watch an AI video. Like when I scroll through and they come up on Instagram, I'm just like immediately, I don't care. And
Okay.
I think a lot of people are kind of seeing that. It's
Yeah.
almost like how like Marvel films are kind of, they're weaning out of people's interest, and people are kind of going backwards into more independent films, or like that film American Fiction that won an Oscar. That was a super low budget movie, or even the Godzilla -1 that won Best VFX, and it's like an $80 million movie. Against these huge budget like Marvel movies, and their VFX are like terrible in them. Well, they're getting bad. Obviously a lot of them are great, but I think people are going to revert back, and they're kind of getting sick of all the AI stuff. And at first it was like really cool, everyone was doing it, and now everybody's just kind of creating the same things. And this is from like an audience viewpoint of it, where they're going to want something that's real.
Hmm.
And I don't think it will last or take over anything. I think like concept artists and like stock photo, stock video, I think they're probably going to take the biggest hit in the sense of like the filmmaking world. Um, but there's also a lot of AI tools. Like there's a lot of like audio AI tools that are really good, that will allow like, if I'm a lot of the films that I shoot, I end up editing as well. And I've used some AI tools that will cut sounds out and just have the vocals come through that are really good.
Yeah, it's
So
incredible.
there's definitely, yeah, there's definitely good tools in that sense, that I don't have a problem with.
Hmm.
That to me is allowing creators and filmmakers that don't have these bigger budgets to still put their best foot forward in their films, and to get their film seen. And because that's a big thing, especially audio, um, where like 28 days later, the they shot that on like the really bad like video camera,
Yeah.
but the audio was okay. So the audio was good and the story was good, so people will put up with that. But if the audio is bad, people are not going to put up with that. They're not going to be able to sit through a movie and just see the image. Where a lot of these smaller projects, we can use these AI tools because we can't afford to get like a professional sound mixer to come in. So that's what I think, that it can help in those ways. But I don't think Sora is going to become like, you're going to click a button and make a Will Smith movie, and you're going to enjoy it, because you're going to know it's fake and nothing went into it, and it's not going to matter.
Right. I agree because people still want to watch not just people, but then also things that are made by people. In my opinion,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah. And so, second to last question, what do you feel like filmmaking and video production in general has done for you as a person? Do you feel like you've kind of grown what uh, as far as that goes? Like what would you say it's done for you the most?
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for like movies and filmmaking, I don't know what I would be doing. I would be very unhappy, I think. Um, it's really given me like an outlet of something else to focus on when it comes to like, not that I don't focus on problems in my life, but it's like an escape to be able to do this. And I'm very fortunate that I do make a living doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I've taken a lot of sacrifices to do that. I dropped out of college after a semester. I took a huge risk on like buying all my equipment when I was first starting, and I wasn't getting a lot of work. Um,
Can I ask
you know,
what were you
yeah.
studying in college?
I went for business management, and I was already like reading. I'm a big nonfiction reader.
Mm-hmm.
My dad got me into reading when I was younger. So like a lot of business books, filmmaking books, screenwriting books. So I already knew a lot about business to begin with, and then when I was in class, I was like, this really isn't. I would look at my professors and be like, well, how many businesses have you owned?
I
And they
see.
didn't. So I was like, well, all right, well, why am I gonna? What advice are you gonna give me that I can't get from this book that I can teach myself? Um, and even growing up, I was really big on like how-to videos on YouTube, how-to articles, like obsessed with learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a big thing too that has helped me with like not going to film school or anything, is really being able to cipher good lessons and bad lessons and what knowledge to take in, and me being honest with myself about where I need to improve.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, filmmaking and cinematography and all this has just like, I don't know. I don't want to say it's my will to live, but it's like brings me on to like, if I have like a day off and I'm not working on a project, I almost get into like a panic. And I'm like, what's happening? Why am I not working? What am I going to do? It feels like something is like, I'm like missing something there is like empty. And yeah, I mean, my whole life is like movies and film. And I have a lot of friends that don't have like, they're not super passionate about anything really, besides like, they're into sports, watching sports or whatever. But, I wish I could bestow my passion for film and filmmaking onto them so they could find something that they do every day that they can look forward to. Because I don't know what I would do or how I would live without that.
Right.
Um, so that's very, yeah, it's like my whole life
With
is
that,
doing it.
when you
And I
say
think too, a lot of,
with that, sorry to
yeah,
cut you off. When you say without that, do you mean
no, no,
watching movies or making them?
both,
Both.
both.
Okay.
Yeah, more so than making them, like striving to make films and having, that's like what I look forward to, is that project. What is the next project? When you see the final outcome of it, that's everything to me that I look for. Um, yeah,
That's awesome. That's
I hope
awesome.
that answers that. Yeah.
No, absolutely. That's awesome. Could you see yourself going back into acting if the opportunity ever arises?
It's funny, when I was acting and I was bodybuilding at the time, and I was like super narcissistic, and I'm sure I still am, but I was I think that was more of all for vanity, and kind of like helping my own insecurities and wanting people to like me. And like if I'm on TV, people think I'm cool, and at the same time, it was another route into directing and filmmaking. I looked at it as,
Yeah.
and I said, okay, one of these is going to hopefully break first, making my own stuff, or I'm going to get onto a big movie. But one of the driving factors too of the acting was like vanity, and trying to become famous and that whole thing. And I was actually like worried about if I was ever going to not want to act anymore. Like my dad would always say, like, what are you going to do if you don't want to do this anymore? And I'm like, I'll never not want to do it. What do you mean? I don't want to live that life.
Yeah.
And then I just completely stopped. I was like I would get a text from my manager, like right now, he'll send me sides for an audition that I have to get done tonight. So I'm going to a movie in like an hour to see the new Mad Max movie, and then I would be at the movie trying to memorize my lines. Then I gotta find somebody to read the lines with me and tape that audition, edit it, upload it, not get the job. And I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this process. Being on set is cool, and I think that's what I was really striving for, and that's what I wanted. And not being in control, having to go through gatekeepers,
Hmm.
like me having my own equipment as a filmmaker and a cinematographer, it's up to me. It's as hard as I want to work is how far I'm going to go.
Right.
As an actor, you could work and memorize your lines and be amazing, and it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
You still may never get a job because you're not right for that project, or somebody is more friends with that whatever. Um, and I hated that. I felt like I wasn't in control of anything, and I was constantly waiting for other people to approve me to get to this next step. Um, so to answer your question with that long answer, I don't think so. I don't really have an interest of being on camera anymore.
Except for today.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this is okay. Well, this is me. This is me. It's
Right.
not me pretending to be something else. Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of I think I wanted to be Ryan Gosling in a Ryan Gosling movie, and anything else that came to me, I was uninterested in.
I see.
But yeah, yeah,
Well, that's cool though, man. Like it's inspiring. Like it's fun seeing kind of your progression, your arc as far as like where you've come. Because I was interested in acting too, and just kind of seeing that. I didn't know that you had done that before. Because by the time you and I met, we were already um, you were already making the videos like with video production and stuff like
mm-hmm.
that. So cool, man. Well, hey, I don't want to take up too much of your any more of your day. Where can people find you, and what should they be on the lookout for?
You can find me on Instagram. It's Austin underscore Rappold, and you can find my production website is rappoldentertainment.com. What do I have coming up? I have a lot of projects on the horizon for this year. A lot of different indie films, short films, and there's two features that are coming up. But yeah, that's it. I don't know. I'm all over the place.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well,
You gotta
well,
you gotta go on you gotta go to the Instagram for whenever I do post, but I'm kind of bad at posting, so.
no, that's why I like looking at your stuff because it'll be sometimes it seems like you're kind of quiet, and then out of nowhere, Ice T's on there. So I'm like, okay, I gotta pay more attention.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
hey,
I try to stay off social media as much as I can, but with this industry, you have to be on it, unfortunately.
you feel like you're happier if you're off social media?
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. Like a lot of the jobs I got and a lot of the directors I've met were through social media, but
Okay.
it's just kind of like the doom scrolling is what I hate about it. I like the posting and I like the community aspect, but like you know, I wish that other part of it wasn't there. That doom scrolling and selling things, I wish that wasn't there. Selling products and everything. But yeah, it is what it is.
100%. It's addictive. Yeah. I think we're all kind of addicted
Yeah,
to it.
yeah.
Well, hey, Austin, thanks so much for your time today. It was a pleasure speaking with you, getting to chat with you a little bit, and hope you have
Same to you,
have
Thomas.
have a good rest of your day, man.
All right, man. You too. Have a good weekend.
Okay, you too, Austin. Talk soon.
All right. I'll talk to you, Tom.
Bye.
Bye.